Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 179 of the Run in the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Joey and Ben. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great, feeling tired. We got a late pod tonight, but what a pod we have for you today.
That's right, Ben. Trade deadline. We're recording this the night of the trade deadline, 11:32 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was working a late basketball game, so finally got back, but we could not skip the trade deadline episode. Ben, how are you feeling?
Feeling great. Just whew, this is gonna be a fun one. This could bring out some of our better debates that we've had on the podcast, but we'll see.
Definitely could. Unfortunately, no Coach Cove on the podcast. Feels so bad, Coach. We're praying for you. Hope you're feeling better. Wasn't feeling too good, but we're gonna hold down the fort. The three-man weave is gonna look as sharp as it ever has in the history of mankind here today. But to start off, we've got Pirtle. Let's try and get through this as quickly as possible so we can talk about all these crazy trades. Joey, who is our lucky charm first guest for today?
We're gonna hopefully Maxi Kleiber is our lucky guy. Randomly watching him on League Pass before we load it up. Crap.
Okay, all right. East. So this guy will be in the Eastern Conference. Looks like a guard slash forward because the forward is yellow, and a younger dude that wears a single digit jersey number. So obviously could be a lot of players. Um, I'm very curious to see how many of the trades have actually been updated. Um,
Yeah,
I'm not sure how many. So because of that, you guys think we should stay away from traded players?
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, guard slash forward. Honestly, I was thinking we could go with a guy on our favorite team that I thought might be on the move, but didn't end up getting moved, and that is Max Struess.
Ooh, I'm down with that.
we'll try
Let's
it.
go. We'll go with it. Max Struess. All right, exactly 29 years old,
Oh,
is not in the Central Division, and is a 6'6" or 6'7" wing player in the Eastern Conference. All right, so 29-year-old, so a player that's in his prime here.
Crap.
Let's see,
Uh,
man.
so not
Oh,
the
not Central,
Central.
not Central Division.
How old is
Um,
Josh Hart, or is he a little taller?
Honestly, he might be. I think he might be like right at Struce's height, but that's not bad though. I do think he's number three though,
Oh yeah, that would have been a yellow.
which would be highlighted. That's not bad though. We could go with I don't know how old this guy is, but like a Jalen Brown,
That's not a bad guess. Yeah, he's
yeah, I was
right around. He's
thinking
a
him
little taller.
possibly.
all-star prevalent player. We'll go with it. We can knock down divisions if this isn't right. Oh, we got it.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
Mister.
JB43. Love to see it. Jalen Brown getting it in three. Let us know how long it took you guys to get Jalen Brown. But now let's get in to the 2026 NBA trade deadline. It may not have had the crazy out of nowhere superstar trade like Luka last year, but my goodness, lots of trades went down with relevant players and relevant teams that still came out of nowhere. So much to talk about. Make sure to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's start off with our favorite team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who were definitely the most active team as far as the most buying team throughout this deadline so far. On the last episode, we talked about the DeAndre Hunter trade, him going to Sacramento, getting back Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. And we were talking about the trade, and we're like, let's see. We're not sure, but they might be in to do something bigger. And oh boy, they were. They traded away Darius Garland and this year's second round pick to the Los Angeles Clippers for James Harden. Fear the Beard is a Cleveland Cavalier. Still unbelievable to even think how quickly all of this happened. Of course, it came out that James Harden apparently didn't request a trade, but we all kind of knew what happened. He was having extension talks with the Clippers. They weren't willing to extend him going forward. So Harden was looking for a place where he could compete a little bit better and, maybe have some money for the future. So, Joey, of course, Cavs fans our whole lives, we've got to watch Darius Garland from the very beginning of his Cavalier career all the way to the end here and making a trade for another all-star point guard, but a guy that's 10 years older. Joey, I know it's kind of hard here, but give us your thoughts from your heart and then your head on this trade for the Cavaliers.
My heart has been crying and upset for the last couple days. Literally right after we got off the pod the other night, the news broke that it's serious talks Harden for Garland, and then the next day it happens. And yeah, I was not a fan. Still kind of iffy on it because Darius Garland, I'll always have respect and love for him. Got to watch him in the All-Star game when it was in Cleveland that year. It was super fun to watch. He just felt at home. He felt like a Cleveland guard, and he will truly be missed. But I wish nothing but the best, and hopefully he gets healthy and can show out west what he is capable of. My head, though, I will say it's probably a good move, especially with us getting those other guys helping defend and energy, because defense and energy and hustle is what we've needed all year, and that doesn't really ring with James Harden, but based off of the other night, we got to see Schroeder and Keon Ellis play a little bit in the first, and that's exactly what they brought, and I'm real excited for it. And yeah, James Harden is a little bit better right now. He's playing really, really good, and he's healthier. And this is very much Cavs are ready to, they're buying in and they're ready to win now. And they kind of have to because Mitchell needs that extension if he wants to stay. And he's not going to stay if we're not really committed to winning. So this really is kind of a going for it kind of move. And I'm nervous, but I'm pretty excited because it will probably work out really well.
Yeah, Ben, obviously a lot of different mixed emotions going about it for us as Cavs fans. I think people across the whole NBA, but I think the first place we can start with you, Ben, is the fact that James Harden and the Clippers were, in fact, exploring a trade because, the Clippers obviously got off to a horrid start. We're 6-21. They had the whole Chris Paul situation, which we'll get to that trade, quickly a little bit later. But since really Christmas time, they've been red hot. We've been talking about how they were hoping to go on a nice run to get back into the playoffs, and they've been doing that. And we've been talking how Kawhi Leonard, he does end up making the All-Star game, by the way. Congrats to Kawhi. He does end up making the All-Star game. But about his greatness and what he's been able to do for that Clippers team. But James Harden, rightfully so, should also be in that conversation to, wow, he didn't make an All-Star game. He's averaging 25 and 8 assists on the season. And just when they're hitting their stride near the trade deadline, this comes out and it kind of shifts the whole thing. So, Ben, what was your reaction when you saw that the trade was possible for Harden and the Clippers?
Well, I was surprised by it at first because I never really thought before of like the Cavs wanting like any interest in like James Harden switching guards or anything like that, and just the Clippers trading him because the Clippers were like hot, actually playing really good basketball with him. But in my opinion, when I first saw that break out, I wasn't too pleased about it as a Cavs fan, and I'm not a fan of this trade. It is mixed, between people liking it and between people disliking it, and I'm on like the dislike side with this with the Cavs. This is a huge gamble. I think the Cavs are taking with this. Harden, we've mentioned, is 10 years older than Garland. Yeah, I mean, he does. He's still pretty good now. Only has a few pretty good years left. Like you're really counting on a few years, hopefully getting over the top of Harden. And this year, I mean, look, the East isn't as good this year, but I worry about the fit not being so great with James Harden on this basketball team, and it's going to take a while to figure things out. Like, I think with the way James has worked well with the Clippers has been like slowing it down at times, trying to find a good pick and roll, find a way to like get to a good spot to get off a potential good shot. The Cavs have just, I think, have played more faster. I've noticed at least than the Clippers, more, I guess, more times often, and the Cavs are really gonna have to adjust to this. And I think the chemistry's gonna go down for what it was with Garland. I thought Garland was a good fit on our team, and I had Allen and Mobley. I think they're tall guys, but like they aren't super fast. I feel like they're just somehow gonna struggle in the pick and roll at times with Harden, and is it gonna be really is it gonna be harder with lobbing and going into the paint with Allen and Mobley? I thought Harden with like Zubac and Embiid like had some good chemistry, was like, bigs he could really work out well with, and I don't have a whole lot of confidence with this on the Cavs. Really, uh, I just don't feel great about it myself. And even next year, if the Cavs get the fit a bit more figured out, which I still think is going to be tough next year, the East is going to be even better. Like the Pacers are going to get better, the Celtics are going to get Tatum back and get better. That's what's hard about it next year. This year, like, yes, it's weaker East, but it, it's the playoffs aren't in too long, and it's hard when you, even if you get a pretty good player like Harden mid season to get it all to work, and the and to potentially, like not try to mess up in the playoffs, really.
Yeah, this is an extremely fascinating trade from both sides of things. Obviously, for the Cavs, this is a very risky trade. Of course, you're trading away someone that's 10 years younger that has fit with this team. You're making a drastic change because you're trading one of the core four players that has been with this team for, we're now in the fourth season. It ends up being 3.5 seasons that the core four is together. But to me, it is a risk that is absolutely worth taking because at this point, the only timeline that matters for the Cleveland Cavaliers is Donovan Mitchell's timeline. He is ready to win now, and he is up for a contract extension in the summer. And obviously, if the Cavs were to flame out in the playoffs again in the second round, or God forbid, the first round or anything like that, there's no way Donovan Mitchell is signing an extension. So you need to go all in. And a guy like Darius Garland, who, yes, when he plays is definitely electrifying to watch, but obviously he's small defensively, so it doesn't really help out. And the injuries to the toes, it's just made it kind of, you can't really trust him to be durable when games matter most. If there's a few things that you can say pretty confidently about James Harden, it's that one, he is going to play in big games, and two, he is going to get the best out of his bigs because he's done it everywhere he has gone. Besides Dwight Howard, we can forget about that. Clint Capella, he made a near all-star player. Ivica Zubac, he made a near all NBA player last year. And we're going to talk about the fact that, the Zubac trade later. He made Zubac so valuable that he got more in return for his team than Anthony Davis, really, because of how well James Harden made him look. And obviously, Joel Embiid was an MVP when he played with James Harden. I am so excited to see what Harden does for the two bigs because he's actually playing with lob threats. These are guys that thrive in pick and roll situations, can, catch lobs, obviously can block shots. And something that you can trust with this Cleveland team now, which you couldn't really trust the whole time, even though Garland was an all-star player. You get 40 when all four of them are healthy and playing. You get 48 minutes of elite playmaking, elite ISO play with your guards, and elite pick and roll play with the point guard and the center. And, obviously defensively, obviously Harden, like you said, Joe, he's never going to be known for his defense, but he is bigger, which allows him to do solid against switches. And even if you don't like it because of defense, what were you going to do with Darius Garland defensively? This is clearly an upgrade, and in a wide open Eastern Conference, even though it's going to take time to gel, you have to go for it in this Eastern Conference. Because me personally, I know everyone can have their own opinion on this. Prior to this trade, very iffy on whether or not the Cavs would be a finals contender and more leaning towards the no. I am very comfortable saying that this team can go to an NBA Finals and win the East because of what they can do against other teams. And I was not confident with that, with how they were playing before. So I think it was very necessary, very risky, and there is a world where it doesn't work out, but I think you have to go for it because this was the best way for them to get better.
I tend to agree with that. But it is very much, and I agree with Ben. Like, it very much is a win now. Like, yeah, we can come out of the East this year, but like we're going to talk about a couple trades and soon. There's going to be a couple other teams next year that are going to be ready to fight. One of those, the Celtics, are ready to fight now, but next year when they get Tatum back and their new addition, the East is going to be much, much, much stronger next year. And yeah, maybe Harden works out this year, but if we do happen to make it, if we make the Eastern Conference Finals this year or even the NBA Finals, but we don't win anything, James Harden will come back, Donovan Mitchell. There is not even a close to a guarantee because James Harden is getting older. Who knows when he is going to regress? I don't think there's much of a chance for us to get back to that within another year or two. Maybe we get 2 years of contention and Donovan signs that extension, but that's it. That's all we got. Congrats. We'll keep Donovan Mitchell for another couple of years, but we don't really have much else to go for. It's this year and next year, and that's it. That's our window now.
But I think that's the right idea here in this open Eastern Conference. That's what I'm all for, because what we have been living the life of the last few years, good in the regular season, get to the playoffs, and we'll see what happens in the last few years. They've lost in the second round. This is the best chance that the Cleveland Cavaliers will ever had right now of having an NBA Finals appearance without LeBron James on the roster because of how open the Eastern Conference is. And again, how well the players fit together. Yeah. Like, I know a big thing that comes up is, James Harden, obviously he's an all-time great, former MVP, one of the greatest scorers of all time, but he does tend to disappear in some playoff moments. What I like in this situation, one, he is always going to end up giving you one, or if in a 5, 6, 7 game series, he's good to give you 2 big games. And in this situation, he's getting to play with a playoff riser in Donovan Mitchell, one of the biggest risers that we've seen over the last few years. And to me, if Harden, even in some games, has to take a step back, but Mobley is better because he has one of the greatest playmakers in the history of the game to get him better, or same with Jared Allen, I really like it. I mean, I really like the move because this was the best way to get better. Not to mention they get cheaper with these trades. They saved about $100 million in luxury tax and improved their chances of winning. I don't know how many other situations you'd be able to do that. They did that with another trade they made, sending Lonzo Ball to Utah. They had to give up 2 second-round picks to get off the money. The open roster spot, they're going to convert our boy Naquan Tomlin to a standard deal, and that will be the 15-man roster going forward for the rest of the season. So will it work? I don't know. I'm very excited to see how it works on the floor, but I definitely see a lot of promise in this Eastern Conference.
It's very much reminiscent of the mid-2010s when we did have LeBron, when it was very much, we're buying now. Like, we got to win now. Like, our window isn't huge, but we got to get some players to help us improve drastically and quickly. However, in my opinion, it's instead of the 2015 trade where we got Shump, Smith, and Mozgov to help us win, it's very reminiscent, or at least it's giving me vibes of 2018 and very much getting these guys, but it not panning out at all.
Well, funny thing is, I think it's a combo of both. Because to me, the Schroeder and Ellis is almost a perfect comparison to the Shumpert JR trade. So that I agree. The Harden though, I mean, it's a huge swing, and
Yeah,
that's where I think both of those are combined. But you got to do what you got to do
you
to
got
keep
to. Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell on your team. And I think this does make them better. Excited to see how it works on the floor, but I definitely think this team has potential in the Eastern Conference, but we've seen what's happened with James Harden in this previous stop. So if it doesn't happen, I wouldn't be surprised either. But on the Clippers side of things, they are able to, I mean, of course, they're in a very weird spot here. Again, they're the hottest team in the league. Then your all star point guard comes out and basically says he wants a trade. And you're able to get a two-time all-star, 10 years younger, although, he's still dealing with the toe injuries now, but able to get a guy like Darius Garland, Ben, that when he is healthy, we know he's super fun to watch. And now he gets to go play in Los Angeles and be the point guard of their future as they try to figure out what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I do like it for the Clippers on the other side of this trade. My grades for this trade was I gave the Cavs a D, which should surprise you viewers since I wasn't a fan of the Cavs side. But for the Clippers, I like it. I give them a B plus. Like, I mean, maybe the Clippers could have got a more of like draft stuff back for Harden, but overall, it's a good return. Like, I think with like players in the league, Darius was like one of the better ones you could have possibly gotten in return, especially if he was interested in James Harden. So I don't blame the Clippers for taking this deal, and I think Darius Garland could work out well there when he's playing because he's gonna get back to getting the ball out again. And I think that's gonna just help him be able to improve his game some more while also just getting more opportunities to, just get more shot ups and hopefully get more baskets. I think his numbers are going to go up more of him being more, a league guy coming up with the Clippers. But obviously, Kawhi's still there for now. Maybe he'll get moved in the summer. We'll see. But definitely, I think more chance for Garland. And I'm going to miss him on the Cavs. I was a fan of him. Great, cool guy, but I hope he does well with the Clippers.
yeah, he's definitely going to be a fan favorite because he was here. He's going to be there. He's playing where his daddy played. Winston Garland played for the Clippers for a couple years, so it's going to be nice for them. But yeah, it's a solid deal for both sides. Like if you just look at it on paper, I just look at it as like I feel bad for Garland. He really came to love Cleveland. You could really tell.
Yeah, no question about it. So obviously rooting for the best for DG the PG. He's gonna. I think he'll be a great fit there in LA for the rest of this season. I mean, we'll see what they can do. I mean, they've really struggled as a team this year when Harden has not played. So we'll see how Garland can be integrated and if they can still find a way to make the playoffs and not lose their lottery pick to Oklahoma City, which is still the big overwhelming thing here. That's why the biggest winner of this trade might be Oklahoma City because you lose. Well, the two trades they traded away all-star point guard, all-star caliber center in this trade, but definitely the one that came out of nowhere. Again, when we recorded the podcast on Monday, the alert saying that they were in advanced talks came out like pretty soon after, and then it's like, wow, what a crazy turn of events. Of course, they end up playing each other the day after, so just a surreal scene.
We almost hopped on right after and was like, emergency pod, guys, come on.
Yeah, if the trade had happened, that would have been crazy. But let's finally move on to our next big trade. Here's one that came out of nowhere. Anthony Davis ends up getting traded but to the Washington Wizards in a huge trade. Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum to the Wizards for Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley, this year's Thunder first round pick, the 2030 Warriors first round pick, and 3 future second round picks. So, Ben, let's start with you. We've been talking all season long. What are the Mavericks going to do with Anthony Davis? Coming into the year, we thought the Mavericks would be a pretty decent team. It has not gone that way. He has still been injured, and but we were still contemplating, debating on this podcast. Should they keep it going and see what they have when he comes back, Kyrie comes back, and they have Cooper Flag, who's having an unbelievable rookie season, but they end up moving him to the Wizards. So, Ben, what do you think about this from the Mavericks side of things to start off with?
Yeah, I really like this from the Mavericks side of things. Like, I think it was time for them to move on from Anthony Davis, in my opinion. Like, Davis, he is injury prone, obviously. I mean, obviously, you would hope for the guy to get healthy, but the tough thing when you're already passively having injuries is that it's hard for it to really get like much better later on in your career. And like Davis, he was pretty good when on the court for Dallas, but it's just like I think they need to, just build around Coop and just put in the best pieces for him in the future. Coop's looked really good recently, Cooper Flag. He's put up like 30+ point games in their past multiple games, which that's impressive sign. And I really like the return for Dallas. I mean, 2 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, pretty good draft capital, a few young players who Malachi Branham and E.G. Johnson, some of them couldn't do too much for Washington, but could get some time here for Dallas later on in the season, and maybe they could show off some good stuff. I mean, I still think they have some potential as young players, and getting them some time maybe could really help them with Dallas potentially. And yeah, that's my thoughts with it for Dallas.
Yeah, Joey. I mean, first, let's go back about a year
Oh
when the
gosh.
Luka Doncic trade happens, and we're on the podcast, and obviously, things did not turn out the way that they would have hoped. But Joey, even for the biggest pessimists of that trade, would you have thought that with that they would have had AD traded the next season?
No, not at all. The only and Ben, I love you, and I truly do think you're probably the smartest guy on this podcast out of all 4 of us. But the only good thing that the Mavericks got out of this is that they are finally moving on from that whole thing and just being like, this is Coop's team. We got to start building around him. Rebuild time. It's the only good thing. I know they were screwed by their previous GM, he who shall not be named, but that is what you got for Luka Doncic. 2026 OKC pick, which is going to be the last pick in the draft, a protected first round pick from Golden State, which they're probably Curry will be gone. Who knows what that team will look like in 2030? It'll be protected. They're not getting that pick. And they get a couple second rounds and Grandpa Chris Middleton and a couple young guys that are met. Like that is, I know it was the previous GM's fault for getting rid of Luka Doncic, but this was a panic trade. It really was. Like you really should have tried to see like maybe what you could get in the summer for AD because, or who knows what you could, but like this is not a good return. Like it is like when you look at it by itself, but this is what you get for Luka Doncic. When you put Luka Doncic for this haul, that is not a good trade, and that is what it is. That's the way I look at it. I think it's just really bad for the Mavs. Again, the only good thing is that they're just committing to Coop, who's an absolute beast, and they can actually build around him.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
mean, pretty much.
respect the Mavs GM who is filled in for Nico to do this. That was all Nico's fault, the AD trade. Nico was not a good GM. This is a great trade for now. I respect this for Dallas. How much of a better package can you get it for AD? What teams would have been hesitant for even more draft picks than that? That's good draft capital. Two first round picks, three second round picks, maybe get some good young players out of that. Who knows? I'm not always totally guaranteed, but there's opportunities there, and just the whole AD fit was not working there. It really wasn't. It's time for Coop. I know Kyrie's still there. Whatever. You can't. Just gotta keep Kyrie for now and stuff. But I, I respect the Mavs GM is filled in. They have to do that for now, and they know it's filled. They're glad they admitted it's filled. It was time to move on. I feel quite confident for this for Dallas. I
I thought it
really
was a terrible. I know
I
I was.
really think it's great for them, Joey.
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
confident.
I was pretty much the only one that like really hated that Luca trade because you guys all, or at least Nick, I know for sure was all about that. That Dallas team when healthy is crazy. Problem is they were
The
never healthy. So,
Yeah,
ta-da!
and we'll never know. To me, this trade, I am gonna agree with Joey on this with this trade because I don't know what of these pieces really are valuable for you going forward because you essentially, like you said, Joey, the Thunder first round pick is the 30th pick in the draft, which is so it's basically a second round pick. AJ Johnson's your young piece because Malachi Branham's one of the many players that got reflipped again. So he got traded to Charlotte for Tyus Jones. So now Tyus Jones is on their team. And that Warriors protected first. I mean, that could be something that they could use in a future deal. But I do feel like if this was going to be what you get back in return, then just wait and see what happens when Kyrie comes back because this is still going to be out there. Because I know first round picks sound cool, but I mean, it's the 30th pick in the draft this season and three other second round picks. I just do not. I'm just not a big fan of this from the Dallas perspective because I think if this was what you could have gotten, then you should have waited and at least see what you could get in the offseason or what it looks like on the floor. For the Wizards
Oh,
side of things, obviously we've mentioned Anthony Davis is a distressed asset and he's older and he's been, very injured. Only ends up playing 29 games for the Dallas Mavericks in, a calendar year. But I mean, it's interesting what they're doing here after making the Trae Young trade about a month ago. Here was the deal. They didn't give up a whole lot to get Trae Young, who was also a distressed asset, but still, an all-star caliber player. And this young Wizards team who is this Wizards team is basically saying, all right, this is the final year we are going to be tanking for a future lottery pick because now they didn't have to trade away any of their actual valuable young players. Like Alex Sarr, who's been awesome, is still there. He and Anthony Davis should be a fun front court. If anything, Alex Sarr is maybe the most similar to Anthony Davis at 19, 20 years old. You didn't have to trade Bilal Coulibaly, Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, who's been awesome. Like they get to pair those young players with a Trae Young who's in the prime of his career and a veteran all-star in Anthony Davis. Again, in a wide open Eastern Conference, I'm not sure how much this team does in the offseason. We'll have more. This will be more of an offseason discussion. But if you could get Anthony Davis for all of this, you do it. Like this is one of those things where you just do it. It's even like when I know it's a lesser thing, but as Cavs fans, when we made like the Andre Drummond trade and basically gave up nothing in return, this is kind of similar. If you don't have to give up anything to get someone like that, regardless of the fit, you do it.
what do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think this was a decent trade by the Wizards. They had to give up a lot for him with, you know, AD when he comes back, next year, hopefully for them. They should just sit him out for the rest of this year. Hope to get a great draft pick and stuff. But obviously, the risk here that doesn't make me think it's like a great trade is obviously ED is known to be injury prone and stuff. That's a risk that could happen, but obviously hope he can somehow stay healthy when he does come back because you know what I think makes this trade at least decent is this the Wizards could jump to potentially being like an actual good team somehow next year if he stays healthy. I think he'd be a good fit on that basketball team. Um, he would he he, he fit good with Trey Young there, and hope to make it work with whatever rookie they get in there. Obviously, depends on draft pick, but man, if they get one of the top guys in this class, whew, they could be scary next year. Like, man, that can you imagine the Bansta or Peterson or Boozer there? That the Wizards would have made like a just a crazy jump in town over in a year that happened for like the previous off season. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how AD works. I was quite surprised out of teams AD got traded to the Wizards, but I think I guess I would have did the trade if I were the Wizards, it, it's but it's risky still. I think.
I I love the trade for the Wizards. Again, hate the trade for the Mavericks. Love the trade for the Wizards. They did they didn't give up that much. They a couple veterans, one young guy, and a bunch of second round picks, basically. And you get someone, and I've already heard talks that they might even keep Trey Young and Anthony Davis out for the rest of the year. And if they do that, get them both healthy, get them a full off season of working out with these young guys, get a top draft pick. They're right in with the play in, maybe high play in conversation immediately. As long as they're healthy, even if they're not healthy, Trey Young could help them because Trey Young's probably going to be healthy. AD's the only risky one that like may not be, and if he's not, you're still probably be in contention for a play-in. But that's so much better than just tanking. Like you'll actually playing for something that is awesome and great for all the young guys because they, like you said, Miles, they didn't give up any of their young studs that are starters. Like I think this is an absolute win with little risk to no risk and very high reward for the Wizards.
Yeah, that I would agree. I mean, I think it's great that they are going to get a chance to play some competitive basketball games. There in DC, which is going to be huge for those young guys. Um, you know, Ben, I think the risk. I think because I just don't think they really gave up a whole lot in this trade as far as the things that they traded were probably like maybe 10th or 11th most valuable on their team. Like if you're ranking what's valuable on their team, I'm not sure where I don't think Chris Middleton is that high. If Marvin Bagley, if this was 2018, this would be a lot higher, but he's not anymore. Like I just feel like the risk now is if you have to pay Trey Young and Anthony Davis a whole lot of money and they end up not being good. But for now, you're getting to pay them a majority of your cap when all your young guys are still on their rookie contract. So I think it's a really good deal for the Wizards. They continue to do a great job bringing in veterans at the right time, and I'm excited to see how it goes. I think next year the East is going to be very competitive because we're seeing these teams become more competitive. The Charlotte Hornets, of course, have been so red hot recently. We'll talk about the trade they made. Like, really, the only team in the East that was selling were the Bulls, and we'll talk about all the moves they made. So the East is going to be very competitive, and the Wizards will be right in that mix. I think they will be right in there with the Hornets.
Let's say Bulls selling and the Heat are the only team that did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely an interesting trade there. Almost kind of in a similar vein. Let's go to our next trade, the Jaren Jackson trade. Memphis deciding to move on from Triple J, sending him to the Utah Jazz, along with John Conchar, Vince Williams, and Jock Landale, who got rerouted to the Atlanta Hawks. And then the Grizzlies get back Joey's boy, Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks, Kyle Anderson, the minivan, George Niang on the move once again, and three first round picks, the 2027 swap between the Cavs, the Wolves, and the Jazz, the Lakers first round pick in 27, and the 2031 Suns first round pick. So a lot of moving pieces. Joey, this is one that to me came out of absolute nowhere because all we'd been hearing was that Ja Morant was going to get traded. And out of all this, Jaren gets dealt not only first, but like Ja's still on the team. Jaren's the only one like star from their team that they moved on from.
Yeah, I was very shocked. I saw the Grizzlies and Jazz traded, and I'm like, why would the Jazz need John Morant? And then I saw it was Triple J, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, very shocking. Honestly, I look at it like this is probably one of the more even trades, I would think. Because the Jazz, they've been playing a lot better as of recently. And throughout this kind of year, they've kind of survived, even though the record doesn't show it, their young guys are playing really well. Jaren Jackson will help them a lot on the defensive end. And just to help space the ball, space the floor with all their young guys and stuff. I really like it for the Jazz, and obviously for the Grizzlies. You get Walter Clayton Jr., so I don't think there's anything else to talk about. It's kind of fantastic. He was kind of playing behind a couple of those good young guards that they have in Utah, so I'm happy to see him probably get more of a chance in Memphis. And Memphis getting 3 first-round picks, that's great. That's great. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Ben, Grizzlies signal that they are going to go into rebuild mode by trading away an all-star, effectively ending an era of Memphis Grizzlies basketball here, and going into a bit of a rebuild here. They're outside of the play-in picture. It looks like that top 10 is going to be set there. But what did you think about the return that they got back for a guy like Jaren Jackson?
Yeah, Memphis, I thought, for Jaren got overall good return back for him. Like Walter Clayton, I mean, he's national champion last year of Florida. He has pretty good potential. You can really focus on developing him, which is great there for Memphis. And then obviously not really too thrilling with like two of the veterans you got back who are older, but it's whatever. You take them on, maybe you can flip them for something. Then Hendricks, I mean, he's shown to be like a good defensive kind of guy when he's been able to play. Memphis could work on developing him more, maybe get some more offense out of him. And I like the draft capital that he got back too for Jaron, and I think uh, it was just time to try like blow it up for Memphis, even though they weren't able to like trade John Morant though, since they couldn't really find a great offer for him, which is all right. But this was like nice offer in return for Jaren, and it's all right for them to pull the plug on this. I think.
Absolutely. Now for the Utah Jazz, I love this for them. Oh my goodness. I cannot wait to see what it looks like when those guys are healthy. I mean, we were talking about it from the Wizards, the Wizards trade with Anthony Davis bringing in, that type of player. Utah, the potential starting five that they can have. And honestly, I don't know if they pull off this trade if Keontae George doesn't have the jump that he's had this year. I mean, he's had a phenomenal season for Utah, 24.6 and a half assists per game, a lot more efficient than he was in the first few years of his career, has been super clutch for Utah this year. And you can roll forward now with a potential starting five of Keontae George, Ace Bailey at the 2, Markkinen at the 3, Jaren at the 4, and Walker Kessler at the 5, and replicate really what it replicates to me was the 21-22 Cavs with the three bigs
Yeah,
all on the floor together,
I
which of
was
course
thinking
Markin
that.
was the small forward of. And you have elite defense with Jaren Jackson, who can play the four with a terrific rim protector and rebounder like Walker Kessler. Then Keontae's like your Garland. And if Ace Bailey, is a highly touted player, we'll see if he works out. But they could be in the sweepstakes to get a top pick as well because they're going to continue to tank because they don't want to lose their pick to the Thunder. I think they are in one of the best situations in the league possible going forward. I think if you guys had to pick between the Wizards roster or the Jazz roster going forward, a kind of tough question maybe, but what would you guys go with after the trades that they made? Do you guys prefer the Wizards situation or the Jazz?
I probably prefer Utah. And another guy you didn't mention, Isaiah Collier, has been playing great as of recently. He just had 20 something assists, most assists on the year. And what you said, he played 48 minutes both
48
games.
minutes. 48
That's
minutes.
crazy. But I'm with you. That Utah team, they got the offense. Ace Bailey could turn it around, and he can be lights out if he's hot. And then you got elite defense. You got veterans. You got young guys. Like this is if this is the bottom of the West. Oh my gosh! I know the West is tough, but holy crap!
Yeah, it's hard to even project what the bottom of the West would be like right now. Like heading into next year, I mean, probably the Kings again. Then everything else, like you're not sure. Like probably the Pelicans, the Grizzlies now with the moves that they made. Like maybe the Clippers, but like all these other teams are on the move up with the Mavericks. Obviously, Cooper Flag. This Jazz team, the Blazers. I just really like the way that the direction that Utah is going. And like you said, Joe, I think a pretty good win-win for both sides because now Memphis can sit back and tank. With this trade, they now have what is it, 13 firsts over the next 7 years, which ties the Thunder and the Nets for the most in the league.
Yeah, they get a bunch of draft capital, and we know they're going to move on from Ja. So you do get a young guy to replace him in Walter Clayton. Like I know I'm just a huge fan of him in general, but like you get draft capital and you get a young guy. That's honestly anybody else would have asked for that when you're trying to trade one of your all stars. That is exactly what you're looking for: draft capital and young guys, and you got it.
Absolutely. Let's move on to our next trade. We've had a couple trades talking about some big additions to some lottery teams. Let's talk about some more teams that are buying and talk about another trade that kind of came out of nowhere was the Porzingis to Golden State trade in exchange for Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield going back to the Atlanta Hawks. So the Kuminga situation, Ben, finally over, but it ends with him going to Atlanta and Golden State gets Porzingis here on an expiring contract to try to pair alongside Steph. Draymond stays on the team and all that. So, Ben, what'd you think about this move for the Warriors?
Yeah, I like it for the Warriors. It was absolutely time to move on for Kaminga, get rid of that. You know, tough situation there. So that's a huge relief there for them to move on from him. And then Buddy Hield, yeah, wasn't getting too much like usage in Golden State. So like that was the package for like a guy like Chris Taps Porzingis for when he's healthy. It's a trade I would have been comfortable doing if I were them. Like I think Porzingis fits well on their team. They really needed another big with like some actual like good height, and Porzingis has pretty good height, pretty tall, which helps for when you're gonna have to play like the pretty tall centers. Obviously, get out there in the West, so
Well, and
they'll
he can
help them
shoot.
a bit.
I mean, that's the big thing. A
And
big
he
that can
can
shoot the
shoot,
ball.
yeah. Him shooting really helps them too. So yeah, like for the Warriors, but like for the Hawks too because Porzingis wasn't really working there, and I think Jonathan Kuminga is a nice athletic wing that could get better usage there, fitting well there, and Buddy Hield could get some more playing time there off the bench, and will be another pretty good shooter they have on that team.
Yeah, I like it for the Warriors. Not much, and then like yeah, kind of if they somehow can keep Porzingis or like get Porzingis, sign him to a cheap deal or something. Maybe he likes it out in Golden State. Bring him back next year with Steph, Draymond, possibly, and then Jimmy Butler if he comes back. Like that's a pretty solid starting lineup. Not gonna lie. Um, and with the Hawks, yeah, I free and honestly, even for the Warriors, move on from Jonathan Kuminga. I think it's about time. I thought they should have moved on from him in the summer. Feels like this saga has been going on for almost over 2.5 years now, so it's finally over. It just get that, move on. Everyone gets a clear space, clear head, and the Hawks, good for them. They get, who knows? Kuminga still has untapped potential because it just did not work out. He was unhappy. They were unhappy, and I may be just off here, but he reminds me a lot of Jalen Johnson. Like they have a very similar potential, kind of. Except Jalen Johnson, in my opinion, is obviously way, way better.
Yeah, that's honestly what kind of throws me off about the trade for Atlanta. Because where does Kuminga fit on their team when Johnson needs the ball, but so does Kuminga? That's it. Kind of throws me off with their team.
You can kind of just you start Johnson and then you bring Kuminga off the bench, and then you're not missing. Or if one of them gets hurt, you're really not missing the type of player. They both kind of do the same things. Both super athletic. Both kind of have that same potential where it's very untapped, but like they both kind of they can stretch the floor, they can play inside, they're physical, like they're very much a very similar type player in my opinion. So like whether you don't really have to change, it's easy and simple. You don't really have to change much of your game plan when you bring one off or not. Like you can kind of just alternate them. I agree with, I don't know how you're going to play them together because they're very much the same player. But if you do like what I think Quinn Snyder should do is like have one start, one bench, and just completely just swap them for each other every time. I think you're not really messing with the game plan much, and you can just kind of have everyone else do what they do.
Yeah, the thing that's just concerning is when you're building a roster, you can't have a guy like Kuminga who's making like 24 million on your books and he can't play with your star player, and that's your bench. That's a bench player.
Yeah,
Because you got to be able to close your best players together on the floor if you're trying to build a team. So that did not make much sense to me. And that's not why I never thought that Atlanta would be where Kuminga ends up, but that's what happens there. So
it's definitely a lot for a bench player. I will tell you, he's a perfect fit off the bench for them, but it is a lot of money for a bench player.
Yeah, absolutely. Right after this, the Warriors made a quick trade, dealing Trace Jackson Davis to the Raptors to get the Lakers' second round pick. So Golden State also gets another center there. So they have a nice, solid. The Raptors get another center added to their team, which is good because Jakob Pertl's been injured for a while. They've been going with the rookie Colin Murray Boyles, who's been good, but for a team that wants to compete and be in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, I don't know. He's kind of like a Draymond-esque player, and as a rookie, I don't know if you can start that small in a series.
Yeah, Raptors didn't need to do much, but they definitely needed big man depth, kind of like how I thought the Cavs would need as well. But they got it. They got exactly what they needed. They got a little more depth for him, which is good.
Yep. Next deal, another team that added a center was the Boston Celtics. We talked about it on the podcast last time how, the Celtics and Pacers, two teams in the East, going to look to get a center, and Boston does, getting Nikola Vucevic from the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Anthony Simons, the two teams exchanging second-round picks with that deal. So, Ben, what did you think about this for Boston, the fact that Vucevic ends up being the center that they get to most likely, not even be on their team as they look to compete this year, but probably be, their main center when Tatum comes back next season?
Yeah, I like it for Boston. Obviously, they really needed a center, and they got one in Vucevic. I think fits great in the Missoula system. There, he's a stretch big, which that fits that system quite well, and he's not obviously the best defender, but I think for what they're gonna do on offense, and at least just having a starting caliber big with a good height that played a while, nice amount of years already in the NBA is gonna be a big help to that team. And yeah, Boston should be excited about this. And I didn't think Anthony Simons was working out the best there, and it's all right to move on from him just to get a good big option that was out there and bring him in for some height.
Agreed. Boston, perfect kind of guy. Very much Al Horford esque when they won the championship. Very much that way where he rebounds and shoots the ball. Fits in perfectly with that Joe Mazzulla system, like you said, Ben. Is kind of exactly what they needed for the Bulls. Who knows what they're doing? I
Yeah,
certainly
we'll,
don't.
we'll,
I
we'll get
certainly
to
don't.
we'll get to all their deals coming up next year because they made a ton. But yeah, for Boston, I mean, it is interesting because Vucevic does provide the stretch ability from a big, but defensively, it's just not a fit. He's just too slow footed, and we've seen throughout his entire career that he's just not a serviceable enough defender when it comes time to when it matters most. That's why I'm actually kind of interested to see what Joe Mazzulla does if he plays around with the idea of having Vooch be their bench, six man coming off the bench. Like, I think that is a very big possibility. Like, honestly, with this trade, Vucevic for Simons, I honestly think Boston got back the center version of Anthony Simons, the prototypical big man version of Anthony Simons, someone who can shoot but is not going to be out there to play defense. And you're going to have to live with it. And if he's hot, you're going to play him to close games and see what happens. If not, he's not going to be able to close games that matter. And I think Kada has done a solid job, and you need that physicality defensively when it comes to the playoffs. So I like the pickup for Boston, especially an expiring contract, so they could get out of it, if it doesn't work out this season. But I mean, I could definitely see a world where he comes off the bench for them and is a spark plug for them offensively.
Hmm, interesting. That's the good thing about not having a center and having Keita and Luca Garza be them because they're going to provide good depth one way or the other now.
Yeah, and they've had time all season to get the reps of playing big center minutes. So if they need them come playoff time, they've had that experience. But yeah, let's get to these Bulls trades because that was the first. I don't know the first, but that's one of many moves that Chicago made during this trade deadline. My goodness, there's so many we could go to. I guess I'll just run through them all, and we could just talk about the ones that we want to talk about. So another deal that they made was a three-team trade with Detroit and Minnesota, where the Bulls swung in and acquired Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley, who's been passed around like crazy here this deadline. They go to the Bulls. Detroit swung in and got Kevin Herter, Dario Saric, and the 2026 Timberwolves first-round pick swap, and the Timberwolves got some cash. Talking about this trade here, of course, the Bulls get Jaden Ivey, that one of many, many, many guards that they have on their team. Jaden Ivey finally ends up on the Bulls. I feel like we've been saying it for a couple of years on the podcast that that's where he ends up going. But I think the bigger thing for this trade is that Detroit got another shooter in Kevin Herter from Chicago, which is huge. We've talked about how the Pistons playoff offense, offense when it comes to the playoffs, it might be easy to scheme against because of the lack of three-point shooting. They got another one. Is it enough come playoff time to have like basically Duncan Robinson, Kevin Herter, and maybe Tobias Harris as a stretch four? We'll see, but they did address it. They got another guy that's capable of having big games from three, and it could definitely help them going forward as the top seed in the East.
On paper, it's a good one. It didn't help this last night against the Wizards, where the only one who shot and made threes was Duncan Robinson, and they lost to the Wizards at home. Um, but yeah, on paper, that's exactly what you needed. So solid. Again, Bulls don't know what you're doing. And Timberwolves, congratulations. Go make it rain.
Yeah, see, the thing for the Bulls is I would like Jaden Ivey there if like there was a clear idea of where the heck he's gonna play with all the other guards they have. Next trade that they made, this might be the both of these other trades that they made selling out their guards are kind of big trades. Let's go to the Io DeSumo trade where he goes to the Timberwolves along with Julian Phillips, and the Bulls get back Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller, and 4 future second round picks. So Ben, Io DeSumo, pretty valuable player, has been a hometown Chicago guy who's been with the Bulls his entire career. This year has been awesome, and he goes to a Timberwolves team that's been looking to find depth all season long, and this is the guy they go out and get. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's all right for the Timberwolves. Would have been better if it was like a true point guard. Like I would have liked Kobe White even better than IU to that team, but it's not. But not totally ideal. I would say for the Timberwolves. I think the the fit is interesting. Not the best. I would say it's gonna take some time to get adjusted with that. I think with him, but I think they'll figure it out eventually with him. He could be a good piece. I guess, I don't know if I would bring him off the bench or start him. I think they kind of like experiment with that to start. And yeah, I mean they got the Subi, but like I'm not like a huge fan of it. I would it was it would have been better if they got like more so a true point guard because like they don't really have great ball handling still on that team, and that concerns me for them come playoff time.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, Ben. The exact man I was gonna say. I would have tried harder to try to get Kobe White because Kobe White would have been the perfect fit.
Isn't
That's
that
kind
what we were saying?
we
That's
all
like
thought.
exactly what we were saying.
We all thought
Yeah,
last
I was
pod.
thinking
That's
you could go
exactly
there.
who should go there, and they
Man,
get him something from the Bulls, just not the one person we thought. Again, I think Io will actually be a decent guy for them. They do need help, regardless at the guard position, and someone to help him score a little bit more. But so he's good for that. But like, it's they could have done better. They really could have done better. And the Bulls, another guard. Why not? Why not?
Yeah, they have to give up on the Rob Dillingham, situation just because he hasn't really panned out as an 8th overall pick was supposed to.
Yeah.
But Io DeSumo, he's having a very good year, underrated for the Bulls in their fast-paced offense. DeSumo, as pretty much strictly a reserve player this year, is averaging 15 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists a game, shooting 51% from the field, 45 from 3, and 86 from the free throw. I mean, this guy's having a very good year, and coming in to, his career with the Bulls has been out there for his, perimeter defense as a guard. So I think he can help the Timberwolves. The way I kind of see it is he goes in and fills the role that Nickeil Alexander-Walker had with that team, and I think that's perfect for them. The problem is they did not address the point guard. Dante DiVincenzo has been the one playing the starting point guard all season long. And since Mike Conley is now just old and not good, anymore, he's got traded around. There are rumors he might just go back there. But really, when you take a look at the difference between the last 2 conference finals teams and what they have this year, now they, replace Nickeil with Io, but they couldn't replace Mike Conley. And that could be a problem because Conley, even though like he's not, the all-star player he was for Utah or the grit and grind player he was for Memphis, he was still, a very strong role player, just a solid point guard for Minnesota, but he's just not at that level anymore. And there's nothing like having a true point guard. So the fact that they lack that, it's going to be difficult come playoff time.
Very much so.
For another deal, we keep talking about Kobe White. Let's talk about him. He does not go to the Timberwolves. Instead, he goes back home. He goes back down to North Carolina to the Charlotte Hornets, who have been red hot, just won their 8th straight game, and they've got more reinforcements coming in as Kobe White gets traded to the Hornets along with Mike Conley, who's going to get released. 2nd round pick in 2029, Atlanta/Miami. The Bulls get Colin Sexton, Ousmane Dieng, and 3 2nd-round picks, and the Thunder get Mason Plumlee, who they are releasing from their team. So, Joey, Kobe White to the Hornets. What do you think about this deal?
I love it. I will say Colin Sexton has been playing really well for them, for the Hornets, and has kind of helped them spark plug this winning streak. But Kobe White playing back home, he's going to play better, even though he was already pretty good in Chicago. I really do like it. Anybody that goes home, I automatically root for when you're playing for your kind of your home state, hometown. It's always good to see. And the Hornets are on the up and up. I think it's pretty solid. Just not much else to say other than I don't know what the Bulls are doing. I don't know if they want what do they want more guards or 2nd-round picks, because that's all they're getting is guards and 2nd-round picks.
Yeah, the only thing I like this deal about from the Bulls' perspective is the fact that the young Bull now is a Bull. So
Yeah,
it actually works.
Yeah.
And Sexton and Okoro get to play back together, so that's fun.
That is true. We'll get
yeah,
to
that's
see Sexton
true.
and Okoro a lot more,
Yeah.
which is good. So
Yeah, for us Cavs
fun.
fans, but yeah, definitely interesting what's been going on. Another deal that they made was a 3-team deal, which is kind of a big trade for another top team in the Eastern Conference. Knicks, Bulls, and Pelicans, with New York getting Jose Alvarado from the Pelicans. Knicks deal Gershon Yabusele to the Bulls, and Dalen Terry goes to New Orleans along with 2 2nd-round picks. So how about this, Ben, for New York to swing in and get Jose Alvarado for essentially nothing? Because, no, we love Gershon. It just did not work out at all. He'd been horrible. So how about this for them, getting a guy like, Grand Theft Alvarado to come in and play for a competitive New York team?
I really like it for the Knicks. I think Jose Alvarado, really fits what he likes to do, and uh he's from New York, grew up there, is what I heard. So I'm sure he's hyped about it. I think he might have been getting a bit down on the Pelicans, but I think that great energy from him is gonna come back even more. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to watch that there. It'll be a pesky, tough player like how Josh Hart is with that for them.
it's going to be a really fun duo to see Josh Hart and Jose Alvarado just flying around that court, pestering every single person. I really do. I agree. I really like it for the Knicks. And Yabusele, love him. And he's already playing well for the Bulls. What? He had like 15 and 10 in his first game.
Yeah.
Love it. I just love it that they didn't get another guard. At least they addressed another position.
Yeah, and then the final trade that the Bulls made, a 3-team deal with the Bucks and the Suns. This might be the most random 3-team trade ever, where the Bucks get Ousmane Dieng and Nigel Hayes-Davis. The Suns get Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey, and the Bulls get Nick Richards. That's got to be one of the more random 3-team trades ever. That will go down as one of the weirdest 3-team trades ever. But the Bulls, after all the trades they made, obviously selling, here are their guards. We're going to count how many rotationable guards they have on their roster now. Anthony Simons, Josh Giddey, Colin Sexton, Jaden Ivey, Trey Jones, Rob Dillingham. 6 who are insanely similar. Besides Giddey, who's taller, all of them are so similar. Then the rest of their team, of course, Zach Collins.
They don't really have a center on their team. They're gonna have to go small ball.
I know their centers are Zach Collins, Jalen Smith, and now Nick Richards. That's why and I guess Gershon, if you want to play the back at five. They still have Buzelis, and then they still have Okoro and Patrick Williams on their team, and Noah Senge, who's been a horrible pick for them so far. So just
Oh man.
my goodness, at least I give the Bulls the where I give the Bulls credit though is that they're actually looking to not be good at this point, and they still have their first round picks. They never really had to trade it away. So I give them credit because they see that the Charlotte Hornets are right behind them and just going to take their spot in the plan, if not more, and they're just going to be in the lottery. So what the heck? Let's just bite the bullet, trade all these guys, and now we'll see what happens.
The Bulls, yeah, that's all they get. They get a pat on the back for finally selling when we've been telling them to do that for 2-3 years now. And all you get back is 6 point guards and 6 second-round picks. Congratulations.
Pretty much. Next trade, a trade that happened nearly at the deadline here. A pretty big deal. Another team getting a center, and that is the Pacers getting Ivica Zubac, also Kobe Brown, sending Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, and 2 first-round picks and a future second-round pick to the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, the first-round picks, very interesting to discuss. The picks that they gave away to the Clippers, they gave up their 2029 unprotected first-round pick, the Pacers, and this year's first-round pick protected 1 through 4 and 10 through 30. Very unique pick protection. If it's 5 through 9, the pick goes to the Clippers. But if it's in the top 4 or outside the top 10, it goes to LA. So a very interesting pick protection. Again, that's this year's pick where the Pacers are the worst team in the NBA. So, Joey, what do you think about this deal? Of course, the Pacers get their center. Of course, it's been a nightmarish season, but they're doing this to bump up and get themselves prepared for next year when Halliburton comes back. Now they have their center ready there to compete for next season.
I can't wait for that. Next year, the Pacers are going to be the real deal. Halliburton's going to be there. It is a shame because we do, at least I liked Ben Math there, but to get your center to, at least for me, a clear upgrade over Miles Turner when you made the finals last year, this is clearly an upgrade. And Pacers this is fantastic. Very weird protection. I did not know that it was like that kind of numbers, but I guess if they get a top 4 pick along with that would be crazy. I think that's a fantastic trade for the Pacers.
Yeah, Ben, what are your thoughts on the fit that Zoo could have with the Pacers next season, or even the rest of this season?
Oh, yeah, as I've mentioned, the theme of this, what I value a lot with teams, these trades are the fit. But for this team, the Pacers, I really like this fit a lot. I think Zubac and Halliburton, the pick and roll is going to be a lot of fun to watch. And just like James Harden, Tyrese Halliburton is great at getting assists, and I think him and Zubac will be just a fantastic match. I think I can't wait for the lob passes and just their pick and roll 2-man game. I'm confident it's going to work out great for that team. And yeah, the Pacers, I agree, Joey. They'll be a team, being pretty good again in the East next year, making the East even more of a tougher conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I agree. I think this was a good trade for the Pacers to get a guy like this. Zubac is a very good center. But I am a little concerned about the fit there in Indiana because of just Zubac's style of play. Like when he was with the Clippers, he was getting pretty offensively, he was getting post touches pretty consistently in what was a slow offense. Like Ben, the questions you were having about Harden with Mobley or Allen, I have the same concerns with Zubats because the Pacers we the last few years on their runs to the conference finals, then the finals, have been known for playing so fast and being a pace and space team. And those are two things that do not go with Zoo's game. So how is his game going to be able to fit with the Pacers system when their overall offensive scheme is stuff that Zubats does not thrive at because he's not a super fast guy? That's where I have questions.
Oh, that man, I did quite think about that point. Yeah, I think the fit could work out good, but yeah, I do question that too. That's a great point, Miles, because I mentioned already the Clippers like to put at a more slower pace before it zoom back, but now yeah, the Pacers we've noticed when they're healthy, they like to play fast, so that could take some adjustment, but still believe the Halliburton Zubac connection can eventually get going. There will be fun.
Start doing some sprints, Zoob. Get ready. Time to get in shape.
Yeah, gonna need to because that is by far my biggest concern with this deal. Because if it is the right fit at the center position, or if they should have gone after a Vucevic, who maybe defensively is not the best, but at least he can stretch the floor. He's played in that fast-paced Bulls offense the whole time. So I think time will tell if they made the right big man acquisition with the trade with the picks they gave up. Now from the Clippers side, they get those first round picks in return. Now Benedict Mathurin joins Darius Garland, two players that have a chance to get the basketball a bit more. The curious thing is now, of course, what's going to happen with Kawhi. I thought that he might be on the move. I thought he might have been a Detroit Piston by the end of the trade deadline by with the moves that they ended up making there. But he ends up, staying there. So they're going to try to stay competitive, of course, stay in the lottery. But overall for the Clippers, find it very interesting that they decided to move on from Zoo and just go full younger, with a full younger mindset when of course they still need to be competitive because they don't have any incentive to lose. And the Pacers would have still accepted this deal in the offseason. At least that's what I would think. Because they were
Hey,
not going to get another center by the offseason.
I agree, but honestly, getting that, even though it's weirdly protected, that is kind of clutch for them to at least have somewhat of a chance to get good young talent if they do to since at least in my opinion, I think they'll decide to move on from Kawhi this offseason. I think that's almost a regardless of how this season ends out and how well they do, I think that's a foregone conclusion because with the trade to get Garland and Math and a couple of these first round picks, you're clearly like, yeah, going in old and building a team that's built for the playoffs that did not work. We got to change it up. I think they're changing their whole philosophy, and I like it for the Clippers, especially with the rest of the way the rest of the West is going right now. It's just absolutely intense, and even though they want to stay competitive, they are miles off from being a contender.
I will say though, I don't mind that. I was interested to see what their team was going to look like with Zubats because on paper, Garland, Chris Dunn, Kawhi, John Collins, and Zubats. Like that's not bad. Again, you're swapping Harden for Garland. They've been the hottest team, and Kawhi has still been awesome. So that's like, who knows? I was curious to see what they were gonna do if Zoo stayed there, but they ended up making the move, and we'll see what happens. The rest of the season. The rest of these trades involving some role players, we can go through the rest of these. The defending champs end up getting in here and snagging Jared McCain from the Philadelphia 76ers in exchange for this year's Houston Rockets first round pick and 3 second round picks. So, Joey, I know big Jared McCain fan, I'm sure, ends up going to Oklahoma City. What do you think about this?
I love it. Thunder didn't have to give up much. They're clearly in win now mode because they just won. They're still super young, so it's not like they closed their window or shut it early. And Jared McCain, he was going to be early favorite for rookie of the year before he got injured last year, and just him coming back, it's very up and down. And now that they got VJ, his role has been completely shut out in Philly. So Hopefully, he'll find a new role in OKC. This, if you can make buckets, you're gonna and play defense and hustle. You can easily find a role here in OKC, and who knows? I know a couple of people in our pick'em chat were saying this man is going to turn into like the next Steph Curry now that he's in OKC. So it's definitely a possibility. I think it's honestly a pretty good for both for OKC to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see where he'll play. That's my big thing. But Ben, I mean, obviously the Thunder's development program is, fantastic. So they should do a great job with Jared McCain. We'll just see if he ends up finding a spot in their rotation to play because obviously it is so stacked.
Yeah, I'd really like it too for the Thunder. I think, it's great that they somehow made a good deal work out for McCain, and he's a good scorer, a good shooter. That I was thinking, like, I don't know if the Thunder would make a trade, but it wouldn't be too bad to get a guy that kind of plays like Jared McCain. And wow, they pulled that off. But another great job, well done by Sam Presti.
Sam Presti, we trust.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. And look, I mean, Jared McCain, like in playoff runs, like we saw for the Thunder last year, and like we've seen in every championship run throughout history, you need a random, you may need a random 5-minute spurt from a random role player in like a game 4 when you're down 2-1. You need to even up the series to give you momentum. And Jared McCain could be a prime guy for that. If someone's in foul trouble for OKC and he comes in, just gets a few buckets and gets the Thunder crowd going, I think he could be a big X factor for them as they look to repeat as NBA champions once again. For the Sixers, I also like this deal for them. Doesn't really get talked about a whole lot, but with this deal, trading him for nothing, it allows them to convert Dominic Barlow, who's been their starting power forward all year, has been pretty good. It allows them to finally convert him to a standard deal. And since Jared McCain is now off the books as that backup shooting guard position, they can solely focus on trying to get Quentin Grimes a new contract in the offseason, who's been awesome for them off the bench. So win-win trade for both sides.
Agreed.
Another team that got some shooting, the Lakers. LA does make a trade. They do get in there and get a trade, and honestly, pretty good if you ask me. They acquired Luke Kennard from the Atlanta Hawks in exchange for Gabe Vincent and a 2032 second-round pick. So able to swing in and get the best three-point shooter in the league right now. He's shooting nearly 50% from three for nothingness. I know Laker fans, big friend. I have a, big Laker fan that's a friend here who cannot stand Gabe Vincent. So he quite literally, after our class, when he found out about the trade, got on his knee and thanked the heavens that Gabe Vincent and now Luke Kennard goes to the Lakers to add some shooting to that team.
I was about to say, I've seen a lot of Lakers fans just hating on Gabe Vincent. So I don't even know who's the bigger addition. Is it addition by subtraction, or is it like actually getting a 50% three-point shooter on your team? Because, LeBron and Luka play much better when they just have guys that they can feed it to that can just knock down shots. So huge win for the Lakers right there.
Yeah, pretty good deal there to get some shooting. The final little smaller trades that were made, just for the housekeeping things, just that we went over every single trade. The Celtics sent Chris Boucher to the Jazz for some cash. A lot of cash getting thrown around here today. The Hornets made a number of small little deals. They got Xavier Tillman from the Celtics. Boston gets some cash back. The Hornets got 2 second-round picks to take on Tyus Jones's contract from Orlando, and then immediately sent him to Dallas for Malachi Branham, like we talked about before. And then Eric Gordon, the Sixers traded the old man Eric Gordon to Memphis to swap a couple second-round picks. And then last but not least, Chris Paul got traded to the Raptors, got sent up to the North to be waived. Brooklyn gets Ochai Agbaji and a second-round pick, and the Clippers get the draft rights to Vanya Marinkovic. And that is it. That is it for the trade deadline. Now, of course, one of the biggest news that came out about after the trade deadline, after all the trades were finalized, The only buyout that we had was Cam Thomas from the Brooklyn Nets, ends up getting waived and is going to be a free agent. Of course, it's been a messy situation since the summer when he was a restricted free agent going back to Brooklyn. He's not had a good season offensively, but obviously he is a bucket, and now he's going to have a chance to go to a team and most likely a playoff team and try to contribute some offense off the bench to a competitive team. Joey, what do you think? Where do you think he could go that could make sense for a guy like Cam Thomas?
Immediately, my first thought is to our good friend Jackson Goglin's Houston Rockets, because they need help ball handling. You know he's going to handle the ball. He loves holding on to it, and he loves checking up shots. And they just need help at least with that, because outside of KD and Reed Shepard, they need another shooter. And even though he's having a very, maybe that's just because there's nobody else in Brooklyn to help shoot the ball outside of MPJ. So who knows? Maybe him having KD there as well will help open it up for him as well. So I think that's probably the best fit, though.
Yeah, Ben, what do you think? Do you have any? You agree with Joey about maybe the Rockets, or you have any other teams that are in mind?
Uh, I think there's some other teams that could be interested. I mean, it's been reported before the Bucks or the Cavs had like interest, but I think like the best spot for him would be the Rockets. I agree. Rockets could definitely use a guy like that, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Rockets got him, but we'll see. I wouldn't be a fan of him on the Cavs, and he could work out all right on the Bucks. I guess he could be okay in the Bucks for now, but I mean, be odd kind of situations for him. But I think him to Houston would be great.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that Houston, similar to Minnesota, wasn't able to pull off a deal to get an actual point guard on their team. I thought that was very interesting. I'm wondering if like just one wasn't made available, or if the asking price was too big for the Rockets to go. The Rockets front office has been spectacular throughout this rebuild, so I'm going to trust their front office and just think that nothing was available that they could realistically get, or teams were just asking like, hey, we need Tari Eason or like a valuable young player in order to get a point guard back. So I think I'm going to trust the Rockets on this one, and if they get Cam Thomas, like that'd be a huge move for them.
Agreed.
Agree.
You mentioned the Bucks there, Ben. We do have to talk about, before we get out of here, the thing that did not happen that we've been talking about ever since the last offseason, and that's the fact that the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo was not moved past the deadline. It was announced at like 12 o'clock noon that the Bucks were going to keep him past the trade deadline. Ended up kind of making sense. There were a lot of teams that looked to be interested. You saw Milwaukee, Miami, Golden State. Reports that the Cavs were thinking about throwing in Mobley to get Giannis to join to the Harden, Mitchell, big three. There were a whole lot of things that could have happened there, but at the end of the day, Joey, they end up holding on to him, and this saga will now continue to the off season.
I'm over it. I really am. The whole time, it feels like Giannis wants out, and they're not competitive. They're not going to probably not even going to make the play in. And now he's acting like he wants to stay, and they're going to make a playoff push. Dude, no, you're not. You're just not. The Hornets are going to flip with the Bulls because they're red hot, and you guys are garbage. It's just what it is. You really should have tried to get out of there as quickly as you can. But I get why they did it. You probably could get more this off season. I fully get why they did it, but I'm just over it. I'm over just everyone saying, or him and the Bucks saying, "Oh yeah, we're gonna try to be competitive." You're not even close. Even in this weak East, you're not even close.
Well, so what I find interesting is I know everyone is talking about how, all right, they'll just move him in the offseason. I still think there's a possibility that they will go into this next season with him on their roster, because I think they have a plan in mind that they're going to try to execute. Whether it's the right plan, I'm not sure. But I think the
Yeah.
plan that they're going to try to go about is Giannis will be out for the remainder of the season, so they can try and tank and keep their first round pick, as so many other teams are doing, and hope to get lucky in the draft lottery to get a young, one of those young prospects. If they are able to do that, they can tell Giannis, all right, we have a young prospect that we can build with you around, and now we can trade one of these contracts that are coming up near the end of their deals, like a Kuzma, or if a team wants to take on Turner, and go get Ja Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies. I think that is their plan because it seems like he's going to
Ooh,
be the big star that's available. Again, no, there's obviously, I
yeah.
don't know, crazy sources or anything like that. From the moves that they've made and from the stars that could be available, I think that's their plan going forward. And if that is not able to work, then they're going to deal Giannis. But I think that is what they're going to try and do to salvage this situation.
Nothing screams
Yeah.
like
The Lakers fans.
nothing screams dysfunction like covering up dysfunction with adding John Morant. That's
Yeah.
just a recipe for success, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, the owner, Jimmy Hansel, is with the Bucks co-owner.
Just putting that out there. Good job, Ben. Yeah, sorry, Bucks fans. We get it as Browns fans.
Yeah. But yeah, that is all for the trade deadline and things that happen. I guess the last thing before we get out of here, any huge winners or losers overall for you guys? Big takeaways from the trade deadline. Who would you say are the biggest winners and losers following this crazy week of trades?
Man,
I can go first because I have
Yeah, you go
I have mine
first.
of mine.
all right.
So me personally, because I understand and am a fan of how it can work on the floor, I have the Cavs as a big winner of this trade deadline because of where they were at and how, they had been playing better, but the front office believed that they clearly showed actions over words that the current team was not going to get the job in the playoffs. So they got about as better as they could get. Like they got two terrific role players in Schroeder and Ellis for a guy that was being a negative. I mean, essentially, when you take a look at net ratings for this Cavalier team, they were able to trade away the two worst players on their team this year in DeAndre Hunter and Darius Garland, and they got back Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis, two terrific role players, and James Harden, who was the best player available, arguably the best player available, the best player that was moved throughout the entire season. So
We also got rid of Lonzo, by the way.
And got rid of Lonzo, got $100 million cheaper while increasing their chances to win. So for that, I have the Cavs as a huge winner. Utah, I think, is one of the biggest winners for, again, the lineup that we talked about. I think that they are in an amazing position. And I'll give some love to the Lakers a little bit. Obviously, the Wizards, were solid, but there could be, the Wizards are a winner too, obviously, because there wasn't a whole lot of risk there. But I'll give the Lakers some love there because again, I've been saying to my friend here the whole season, Gabe Vincent has been garbage. How the heck are you going to get anything from it? And they got a really good play, a really good shooter who fits their team. So my big winners, I'll give obviously the Cavs, the Wizards, the Jazz, and I'll give some love to the Lake Show.
Yeah, I would probably say Cavs, Jazz, and Wizards are probably my top two, and then I'll say Celtics as well because getting a center, possibly bring him back for cheaper, and then he literally just reminds me of just an Al Horford type, where he just kind of fits exactly their mold of how they won a championship. It just, instead of Al Horford, it's Vucevic. And losers, Chicago Bulls. Even though again, pat on the back for finally blowing it up, but you didn't get anything really back. So you have more issues now to figure out than you did before, in my opinion. And the Timberwolves, even though I do like the Dosunmu, they've been stuck. And the big issue of them making the Western Conference and not taking the next step is they need a point guard to run that offense and to play make and get everyone involved. That's all they need. And they didn't get it. That's a big miss, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely fair there. Ben, how about you?
So my winners would have to be, I agree with you guys in the Jazz. Big fan of Jaron going there. Um, Pacers. We got the Celtics just because they got the center they needed, and the Clippers and the Mavericks for me. And then losers, that's kind of tricky. The Bulls, Timberwolves, agree with Joey on those. And, well, I'll say the Cavs since I was the guy not a fan of Harden. But
You
as a
sticking with it?
Cavs fan, I hope it works out. Like, nothing's going to stop rooting me from the Cavs. I hope you guys are right, but we'll see what happens.
I get it. No, Nick's usually the pessimist when it comes to the Cavs, so I get you just channeling your inner Nick there and just making sure we're still realists.
No, and again, it is a very risky trade, but I think for where they were at, this I don't know how they would have got how much better they could have gotten than the moves they made. Like I think this is better than keeping what they would have had, and wasting a year in a wide open East. That's why I could, even if it doesn't work out, I still consider it a win because at this point in time, this is what they had to do. I will say so after the moves that Cleveland makes, that Boston makes, the small move that New York makes, Detroit getting another shooter. Of course, East still completely wide open, but on the night of the trade deadline, who would you guys say is the favorite in the Eastern Conference after the trade deadline?
Ooh, that's tough.
The favorite,
I'll
honest,
or I'll go. Okay. Ah, man, I'm gonna have to go to Knicks just because off of experience, and they are getting hot and starting to roll, play really well. Confident they can hopefully keep that going.
I would. I'll be honest. I'll probably still stick with the Pistons. Cavs are right below them. I do like the Knicks getting Jose Alvarado. He's one of my favorite players. But I just don't think it's enough. I think New York's going to choke like they always do.
Okay. I'll
Sorry.
be the one. I'll be the one here that goes with the Cavs because I honestly really like the way that the team looks right now. I know that there wasn't a that they weren't able to get like a another wing, like a true wing or a backup big or anything like that, but clearly those weren't available. And Jalen Tyson, the way that Jalen Tyson has played has allowed them to make these moves confidently with him as the clear starting small forward. So I'll go with them. I really like the way that their team looks out. I think I would be saying this even if I wasn't a Cavs fan. I just really like the way that their team looks out. All I know is the race for these top 5, 6 spots in the East and the order the rest of the season is going to be fun to watch. I think the Pistons have number one locked up. New York and Boston have been hot as of late, but New York, they're on this 8-game winning streak coming off of that awful 4 or 5 game losing streak. So they're just so Jekyll and Hyde. Boston, we'll see if they can keep it up the rest of the season. I think the Vucevic thing is big for them. And obviously the Cavs have been playing so well the last month. Raptors are good. Sixers are hot as well. So that race is going to be so close in the East. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, the West, lots of fun too, even though those top teams did make a lot of huge trades besides the McCain trade. Lots of fun still to be had the rest of the season, and I cannot wait for it. If you guys are still watching, please leave a comment. We appreciate you guys. It is now 1:11 in the morning here. It is time for us to go get some rest after a long week of trade business. You guys have anything else before we get out of here?
No.
Don't think so. It's going to be a fun second half of the season. Stay tuned.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be here to break down next episode. We'll probably be giving our reactions to the debuts of all these big name players with their new team. So stay tuned for that. Again, shout out to Coach Cove. Hope we were able to hold down the fort for you. But that's all for us here on the Runnin the Paint podcast. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.